Hello, this is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan, Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, or iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Alright, I'm back after another week of absence. So, as you guys know, I have a very inconsistent upload schedule, so can't really apologize too much for that because don't have much control. So pretty much until the end of August, I should be on a pretty consistent schedule. But once September rolls around, obviously I got school and all that, so I'll be I'll come back when there's like winter break or spring break and stuff like that. But like I said, whenever I can get a podcast, then I'll do it. Alright. So, Sean Payton says that Russell Wilson and the Broncos starters will play in the preseason. I'm a little skeptical of that. I don't think Russell Wilson really needs to. He already spent the season with them, but I guess it's a different system now with Sean Payton as opposed to Nathaniel Hackett last season. But think about it. I can see this working out well. I don't know if the Broncos are going to do... The Broncos aren't going to be highly successful, in my opinion. I don't think they're making, especially in the competitive AFC. But, Sean Payton made it... He went 5-0 with Teddy Bridgewater. He made it work with Taysom Hill. I'm sure he can make it work with Russell Wilson. So, another problem with the Broncos is not only are they in AFC, which is incredibly stacked, they're also in one of the best divisions in football with the Chiefs and Chargers. So it's very possible they get third in their division at even though they're a team that has 9-8 talent. But I think they're going to be significantly more successful than they were last year. Alright, so Ja'Marr Chase thinks it's okay for Joe Burrow to take some time to get 100% healthy. He thinks he can wait till week 5. Now, as I just said, the Bengals are in a similar problem with the Broncos. Although the Bengals have more talent, but yeah, they're in the stacked AFC. And they're in a stacked division, despite what some people think. The Ravens, although I think the Bengals are going to win, I do think the Bengals are going to win the division. But they do have competition with the Ravens. The Ravens kind of contend with them. And I don't think the Steelers are really a threat to the Bengals. But if Joe Burrow sits the first 5 games, and let's say they go 2-3 in those 5 games, the Steelers could be neck and neck with them, and it's going to be tough to catch up to the Steelers and Ravens. Because the Steelers were rolling at the end of last year. So that division's, outside of the Browns, the whole division is very solid all around. So in my opinion, I guess it won't be that bad if he takes, the first 3 weeks to kind of recover, become 100%, but I think if he's good enough to go, and he's good enough to go. I don't think there's any reason to rest him. If he's 80 or 90%, there's no reason to rest him, given the circumstances they're in. No reason to bench him when you got the Steelers and Ravens right behind you. And again, stacked AFC. If you're trying to go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs, you got to have Joe Burrow there for at least 13, 14 games. You're not going to contend with the Chiefs with a backup quarterback. All right, so Jalen Hurts was interviewed earlier this week. He said he looks to Jordan and Kobe in improving his game. We know how they were. They were very relentless, very dedicated. And I see that in Jalen Hurts, too. I mean, I think he's a very special talent. He, Jalen obviously got a very solid year last year. I'm not entirely... I wouldn't call him a superstar because he really has only had one good year. But he does look very promising. Before I put him up there with Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, I think he has to have another year or two of doing what he did last year. And even though some people might give him a hard time about how much he runs, if it works, it works. You can't really criticize it too much. I think he's a solid all-around quarterback. And as I said before, he's a special talent. He has the Eagles in a great position for the future. They obviously made the Super Bowl. Yes, they lost, but and honestly, Jalen Hurts has a problem that Joe Burrow doesn't, where he is like he has very little. The Eagles have very little competition in the NFC. Like, outside of the Niners, let's be honest, there's not really any other team that can compete with the Eagles and Niners in the NFC. I mean, there are some teams that are kind of right on that border. I mean, I have mentioned the Lions, maybe even the Cowboys, but there's not a lot of teams that look promising. And with Aaron Rodgers gone, is it crazy to say Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the NFC? I don't think so. I don't think it is. Who is the next best? Derek Carr on the Saints now? Maybe, but... I mean, I guess Stafford can still be up there. Had a bit of a rough year last year, but he was battling some injuries, so... cut him some slack on that one. But yeah, Jalen Hurts, with Rodgers out of the NFC... as much as it pains me to say, the Packers aren't really a contender anymore. I think their ceiling is like 9-8, and maybe they make a wild card, but they're not winning that wild card. They're being a first round exit. Like, that's their ceiling to me. Even though Packers fan, their ceiling is a first round exit. But yeah, Eagles with Jalen Hurts are looking good this year. It's not crazy to say they go back to the Super Bowl. I really think the only team standing in their way is the Niners, with Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy. Alright, let's shift to basketball. Anthony Davis agreed to a 3-year, $186 billion extension. I think we're going to have to get used to the fact that a lot of NBA players are going to be getting these big contracts, especially now that Jaylen Brown got that close to $70 million contract. And I don't think Jaylen Brown and Anthony Davis are bad players, but I don't know if they're worth that much. But now that they are, let's just normalize $60 million contracts for some stars. He's not Giannis, he's not Jokic, he's not even Embiid. But he is a solid player. Definitely a top 5 big man when healthy. I'd say probably top 7, maybe top 5 player when healthy. Probably think top 7's more realistic. But honestly, even in the series, I think he's become a bit of a lightning rod. In a sense, Anthony Davis, he gets a lot of criticism. But even the series against Denver... where people say he struggled, he really didn't. He had a solid series against Denver, if you look at the numbers. Jokic had a great series against Davis. Jokic has a great series against everybody. Jokic had a good playoff run. You can't penalize Anthony Davis for that. You can't take from him. You can't minimize Anthony Davis because he got outplayed by Jokic. But against Denver in the playoffs, he's played Denver nine times in the playoffs, 9 games against Denver in the playoffs. He averages 29 and 9. All right, he's not. And in the 4 games that he lost to them, yes, he was inconsistent, but he had a solid series. Every game was a double-double for him. 40 and 10, 18 and 14, 28 and 18, 21 and 14. He had a game where he had 4 blocks. And yes, his points are inconsistent. 40 to 18 is a big jump, but he's a solid player when healthy. Do not kid yourself. Alright, here's a big shock. I don't know why this was in the news, but I feel like I should cover it. Micah Parsons wants to be one of the best to ever play. I mean, he said he wants to be one of the greatest Hall of Fame. I get what he was trying to say. He was saying he doesn't just want to be a Hall of Famer. He wants to be one of the best Hall of Famers, which essentially means wants to be one of the best to play. I mean, doesn't every NFL player want to do that? Or at least most of them. Don't most NFL players want to do that? Like, this isn't a shock to me. And I think he very much can. I think he's... I mean, if he retired today... There's not many players that, if they retired today, would be in the Hall... I think, if Rodgers, maybe the Kelce brothers, Jason Kelce, Travis Kelce, if they retired today, they'd be in the Hall of Fame. If Rodgers retired today, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. I think Von Miller, as well, would be in the Hall of Fame if he retired. Aaron Donald, even, the 3 Defensive Player of the Years. He's arguably already one of the best defensive tackles to ever play. I'd say Bobby Wagner is a Hall of Famer. Justin Tucker. Justin Tucker would be in the Hall of Fame as a kicker if he retired. And I'd say Trent Williams. And then there's your future guys. I think Mahomes can make it in. Mahomes, honestly, would have a case even if he retired today. Already 2 Super Bowls. Super Bowl MVP. Youngest guy to ever do it. And, probably Mahomes, Myles Garrett, Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner. I'm not saying those guys can retire today and be a Hall of Famer, but I think people like Mahomes, Myles Garrett, Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, T.J. Watt, and Fred Warner.